The first time you counted down, you said 3, 2, 1.
I'm just changing it up.
Got to keep me on my toes.
Just changing it up. That's right.
How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm good. I'm a little tired.
Yeah.
I got up a little too early this morning, and
I'm sorry.
Hopefully I'll make it to the end of the podcast here, to the end of the recording.
If you don't, then it will be a pretty boring podcast. I agree, though, and yeah, thanks for doing it a day late. Yesterday was a pretty wild day, and wound up having the high school band concert at night.
How'd that go?
It went well. I mean, it sounded pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm proud of him, but I've never seen him play the bass before. So it's cool to see him do that. Because the bass isn't his instrument. His instrument's the cello, but they need a bass, and for the band, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I'll learn how to play the bass." He's very much more musically talented than me. Let's just leave it at that. So, well, cool. How about you?
I don't remember what I did this weekend. I know I spent a lot of the weekend being very annoyed at my internet access and internet speeds, and had a tech come out, and she looked it over and couldn't figure it out, and so I'm still
back to the cheaper plan, or are you still paying the high?
So I have my middle finger and my thumbs touching, and they're kind of outstretched to either side of me right now.
Serenity.
Serenity. Because I was getting a solid 200 megabit down and 200, 180 up consistently.
Before.
And I made the mistake of saying, well, let's try upgrading. And then it all went into the wrong direction. And so, because I ordered gigabit up and down, thought that'd be great. Well, I was getting 900 up, but only 100 down. I'm like, how do I get less down? I still think there's something on their side, but they won't do anything. And so I said, well, I'm not going to pay for gigabit if I'm getting worse than I was getting before. And so I downgraded to 500.
But that plan is no longer available. And so you've downgraded to 500. No. Now that you've downgraded to 500, do you get more than 100?
Now I get 100 down and 400 up. So I swear,
you're like, that trade-off
feels
did not
like
go the way I wanted it to go.
No, in my head, I'm thinking they are optimizing for the wrong direction. So they probably have something. I don't know networking to save my life, but it feels like they have some switch somewhere that says, make sure that the download is solid and the upload can fluctuate. And they've flipped it where the upload is solid at around the 400, 500, and the download is on the asynchronous thing. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've just spent a couple of minutes there whining about high speed to a guy who would love to be in my shoes.
Playing
so
the world's smallest
let's move on.
For you.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So. Let's see. Anything else cool? I did tweet out. I made another pen this past weekend. I got my lathe working and made it from scratch myself, which was cool. That's really cool.
Was that the one you brought in? Was that the one you brought in and
Yes.
showed me? Or is that
Yep.
a
No,
different
that's
one?
the one I brought in. It was made of olive wood. Actually, my youngest son made a second pen too, and it was actually the one that I was going to do first, but he kind of saw it and then took over and was like, "I got this, Dad. Let me do it." Like, okay, you go. And then actually he's like, "Do you think I could sell these?" I'm like, "Probably. I mean, what are you thinking?" He's like, "Well, there's this winter market coming up that they do crafts and stuff for the school." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, what would you be thinking?" And so anyway, he might do that. He left the shop that night scheming on how he was gonna make a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just, figure out the cost first.
That's right.
So that, anyway, that'll be fun. I got a bunch of stuff I want to do this weekend. So if all goes well and I get some shop time, I'm gonna do some building this weekend. It'll be fun.
Cool. I look forward to hearing what was built next week.
Yeah.
Oh, but next week is Thanksgiving.
Oh, you're right. It is.
Mm.
You're right. Oh man. And then somebody told me today that there was only 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Because Thanksgiving's so late in November.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. We might go get our Christmas tree the weekend after Thanksgiving.
I might have to dig it out of our storage.
Oh, you're a fake Christmas tree guy. That's right.
Well, we made a deal. My wife and I made a deal early on because we like to travel for the holidays. And one year we came home to a dead tree with needles everywhere. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, if we're traveling for Christmas, it's fake tree time. If we're going to stay home for Christmas, it's real tree time.
Okay, so you have an algorithm.
Yes, we have an algorithm.
Or at least a 2-element switch statement.
And it's worked out pretty well. And so this year is a fake tree year.
Okay, that's cool.
So
all right, yeah. That's cool.
All right, so we move into some follow up.
Yeah. Let's get into it. What do you got for me?
So I have the Ring cameras.
Yeah.
And the Ring doorbell and all that good stuff. I've talked about them before. And I think we talked about not too long ago as well about how Ring is partnering with police stations and allowing police stations to have access to videos in cases of crimes, which is one of the reasons why I got it after having had a couple packages stolen off my porch.
Uh-huh.
I thought, well, maybe this will help deter package theft off my porch. But it's a little bit more of a in-depth detail of Ring's terms of service, and they got into trouble a few weeks back because, well, they got into the media, hot water in media a few weeks back after Halloween because they posted a fun commercial, some promotional videos about Ring, showing all the cute little kids showing up on the doorsteps and hitting the Ring doorbell and doing trick-or-treating. And so this is an Ars Technica article talking about the Ring's terms of service allow for it. So if you have a Ring...
Like they used kids' pictures and videos from people who didn't agree to it?
Well, the terms of service says that you grant Ring and its licensees unlimited, irrevocable, fully paid, royalty-free, perpetual, worldwide right to use, distribute, to store, to reuse, distribute, store, delete, translate, copy, modify, display, sell, create derivative works from, and otherwise exploit such shared content for the purpose in any media. Now, that's only if you share your media. Apparently online you can share it. You can choose to share it with the police. You can choose to share it with Ring. You can choose to do that. I don't. I also don't have any. Well, I almost said I don't have any cameras inside, but I did put a camera in my office because that's the one spot of the house that I kind of want to make sure that, you know, there's a lot of equipment in here. So anyway, so I have all my cameras facing the outside and the doors. But it also talks, and so the article basically says if it's the user's fault if a Ring camera violates your privacy. And it talks a little bit about kids under the age of 13, and like I mentioned, the other thing, the Halloween thing, which I am quite sure because most of the kids in the neighborhood, my neighborhood, are under 13, and apparently our front yard is a popular place, and so of course the Ring is catching kids in our yard all the time.
Yeah.
So, but my favorite heading here in this article is "All your face are belong to us." So, go Ring.
Oh,
and you know, Senator Wyden from Oregon, our senator, and a number of other senators are sending a letter off to Amazon to say, hey, you need to give us more details on how you're handling videos.
Right.
So just yet another follow-up article on if you have a Ring, here's some more in details you might be interested in.
Wow.
So there's my follow-up.
No, that's a good one. I had one follow-up as well, which was about the Bluetooth scanners. A month or so ago, I had mentioned just a tweet from Amazon employee that had suspected something like that. And then this is kind of an article that says law enforcement officials have confirmed. So this is a Wired article. And the quote from a person in the San Jose Police Department said, quote, "In our corridor, yes, we have noticed they are in use. Right now, we do know that thieves are utilizing them," says Monica Rueda, a crime prevention specialist at the San Jose Police Department. So, not just not just paranoia,
not theoretical.
And then the other thing that I kind of found humorous is probably the wrong. Not probably. Humorous is the wrong word to say, but so this says, in October, tech worker James Madeline left his BMW unattended for 2 hours in Geneva, Switzerland. When he returned, thieves had stolen only the iPad he had slipped under the passenger front seat. The possibility of a Bluetooth scanner hadn't occurred to Madeline until he saw a tweet from an Amazon employee, I assume the same one, about an apparently scanner-related theft in Mountain View, California. Something about the way they did it all so smoothly. When I saw that tweet, I just figured, that's totally likely. I'll never know for sure, though. And that's a lot of what the rest of the article says is that they're, it's hard to know for sure, and the cops weren't saying that much. But their, the recommendations in there were pretty much the same. Make sure the device is all the way off, not just, hibernating, or kill your Bluetooth entirely, or best, don't leave it in a car. Carry it with you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my piece of follow up. So, law enforcement verification that they have caught people using Bluetooth scanners.
Yeah, that makes sense. Why break into the cars that matter?
Yeah, there was
that
was actually what the sort of last quote of the article was, something along the lines of, let me get it real quick. It said, "I'm sure you can make money by stealing stuff and playing the odds, but why risk breaking into a car that has nothing in it if you can know a vehicle has something of value in it?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Topics.
Hit me up. What do you got for a topic?
So I have a theme today. I have 2 topics.
You always have a theme. You are so much more organized than I am.
I'm going. I have a data leak. It's data leak day, so I have two articles about data leaks.
Every day is data leak day. I'm sorry to say. Okay, sorry. I jest. I mean, but I'm crying. But
the first one, the first one caught my eye because I was at GitHub Universe last week and was learning about a bunch of new stuff with GitHub, and this one is a data exposure that was on GitHub, and it involved one of the WeWork that what do you call WeWork? The shared office space company that has, just Google WeWork and you'll see all sorts of entertaining things about them lately. They're also laying off a massive amount of people, and anyways, so
they're having a time.
What happened here? One of a developer of WeWork had copied somehow one of a public repository on GitHub had exposed a script, and inside that script it contained URLs of PDFs hosted on an unprotected Amazon server. I'm going to go with probably an S3 bucket, an unprotected S3 bucket. And you could download all these PDFs, and they were essentially contracts between WeWork and individual customers. And not only did that have kind of contracts with names and addresses and information, it included agreements between WeWork and some cybersecurity companies, phone numbers, bank account information, etc.
Interesting.
So using a public GitHub repository and accidentally checking something in caused a data leak.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of some of the cool new GitHub features that they talked about at GitHub Universe last week was the ability to scan for certain types of information. And if it's not a type of information that they kind of provide a default plugin, you can write your own.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there was some cool stuff there. I like the token expiration. That seems particularly a particularly nice service by GitHub.
And the second article is a data leak from a transcription site. So this is a site where you upload your audio files and you can have someone transcribe it for you. And I know you've seen those before. We've used them before. So you can upload the audio, and the entire audio and the text were left out there available for anyone to download and look at. So audio and text from journalist interviews, police interviews, government employees, healthcare interviews, some medical files. One of the people who worked with that said one of the favorite things they've done is a journalist who recorded an interview with a prisoner in jail using his name the entire time and then saying that certain segments would be off the record or kept anonymous.
Oh, and then they just hand it off to a transcription service that has a person behind it, and who knows who person behind it responsible for actually listening to the audio and transcribing it.
Exactly, because they just this website just freelances people to sign up and do these kind of on their own. The what do you call it? The gig economy, or what did Amazon call it? The Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk, right?
You sign a confidentiality agreement with the company, but they even state in their FAQ they're not HIPAA compliant. And yet another update, a medical leak or a way to have a medical leak. If you use a transcription service like an online one, probably relatively cheap, and anybody that needs that kind of stuff that does those, probably takes advantage of it. And once it leaves your hands, you have lost control of the security of whatever that is.
It's not just that though too. I mean, it's a good place to maybe say something about, there's lots of tools that will help with converting formats, for example, or like for in the developer community, pretty printing text, or I mean, the worst is, upload a token and it'll it'll unencode it for you and show you what's actually stored in the token. But, by doing that, you're giving somebody a token to decode. It's horrifying what you can actually do. But yeah, even just as something as simple as copying a blob of JSON up to a pretty printer of some sort. So, where, sure, just copy your text into this dialogue right here. We'll print it out on this other one. Thank you so much.
That's right. Oof. Anyways.
Yeah.
So those are my two articles about data leaks. Go check them out.
That's a good one.
Be careful what you share.
That's a good one. So I also have two, but mine are kind of, my first one at least is kind of weird. I just saw it today though. I think it's from today. I guess I should. No, it's dated from a few days ago. So I just saw it today though. But the title of this is Ghost Ships, Crop Circles, and Soft Gold, a GPS Mystery in Shanghai. Did you have a chance to look at this one?
I did. Well, I didn't read it through the details, but I saw the kind of the first page or so.
Yeah, it's a long article. But if you're interested, you should go out and read it. But Oh, where to start on this? So this is kind of crazy. But one of the things, sort of the thing at the very top, uh, to say is that sometimes it's terrifying if you actually can kind of peek under the curtain or behind the curtain, and you see some of the technology behind, quote unquote sophisticated parts of modern life, and you realize, how does that even work? you know, there's no there's no authentication on that. There's no, like, even CRC encoding. Make sure that it hasn't been tampered with. The confidentiality, integrity, availability. No, we're not worrying
Mm-hmm.
about integrity on here. We're not worrying about availability, and we're not worrying about confidentiality. So I don't know. So in this case, this is about GPS, and basically they tell the story of the ships that use GPS and sort of a related technology called AIS, or Automatic Identification System, which is basically them broadcasting a vehicle identifier and position. And the problem is that these big ships rely on this data, uh, and if it gets spoofed, they can either think they're about to collide with something when they're not, or go ahead and collide with something that the claim is not there, but they're trusting their instruments basically, and not not their eyes. And this isn't theoretical. There are actual documented accidents that are happening, but the point of this article is about GPS spoofing that is happening in this area, seemingly centered around this area in Shanghai. There's a Center for Advanced Defense Studies that took a bunch of data that was recorded. Basically, somebody's listening for broadcasts of all this data, and then recording where it was seen, and then they can analyze it afterwards, and they can see essentially spoofed data, that's telling, basically, in the AIS, the Automatic Identification System, these devices are saying, "Hey, this is me, and I'm here," but they're wrong, and they're wrong, showing up in these concentric circles in Shanghai. And so they also they went to see, like, they know that it's GPS because there's another open data set from a scooter company that is in Shanghai that provides anonymized maps of their scooters, and the same stuff's and they're all tracked by GPS, and they show the same thing. So basically somebody is spoofing GPS, like global positioning system. But there's quotes in here, like, this article does not say how they're doing it, but there are quotes in here that said that people are scratching their heads going, how is that possible? Because the way GPS works, how are they doing this? So they don't know. It says, quote, one of the quotes I pulled out: experts are baffled at how it's being accomplished, but they have a hypothesis for why it's being done, and that's the soft gold in the title here, which is basically sand.
Right.
Evidently, dredging the river or rivers was so widespread that they were losing bridges and infrastructure, and so it's illegal to dredge sand from the bottom of the river. But sand's a valuable commodity for making concrete and I presume glass. I don't remember if they said glass. But they said that a ship hold full of sand is worth about $1,000 or $85,000 equivalent. And so there are ships that are, kind of drift up the river at night with, tubes over the side dredging sand, and then they think that one of the reasons why this spoofing is going on is so that the ships can basically sneak past and sneak around and not be caught. Crazy. Crazy?
Sorry,
it,
I'm totally reading through the article now. That
it's a long article.
that is interesting.
But yeah, so there's all sorts
Hmm.
of stuff in here, including like where things are spoofed. There's a small video down below of a ship crashing into a wharf because its position was spoofed. Um,
Right.
and I guess they don't know that it's because of the sand. It just says one possibility is that the crop circles are an escalation in a simmering electronic war in Shanghai that has put thousands of sailors, passengers, and even the river itself at risk. For years, the MSA has been tracking and seizing ships that, while not jamming or spoofing GPS signals, have been hacking the AIS transponders. The ships have been cloning AIS identities of other ships in order to slip in and out of the harbor unmolested by authorities. The reason they're doing this has to do with the cargo the New Glory was carrying when it ran aground, plain everyday sand.
Hmm.
So, anyway, this is pretty crazy. Security, but also old protocols. We had an article that was something about geological layers of protocols. But yeah, this was fun. This was a good one. I did see also, again, I saw it today, but Bruce Schneier had linked to this article on his blog. But the cool thing on there wasn't anything that Bruce had said. He just basically, it was a link post, but there were some comments in his article that said one of them in particular said. AIS is trivial to spoof and has been done for years by Somali pirates, shipwreck location and recovery boats, and so on. Not legal, but it's simple. And this is what I thought was interesting. AIS just takes the bog standard NMEA sentences, literally plain, clear, low baud rate text from the GPS set, and spits it out as a data burst on VHF Marine. It can be fed with any data you want, as there's no error checking, sanity checking, or anything of the sort. Anyone with a Raspberry Pi and a Hack RF can do this with probably a few minutes' work. It's substantially easier than spoofing GPS. So anyway, I thought that was a good comment. Yeah. Okay, and then my second article is kind of a sideband attack, I guess. I'm not sure if I'd consider that sideband or what. But basically, this is a way for Office documents, a malicious Office document, to have its content triggered even if you don't open it. So
what?
Yeah. So Office has so a couple things about this that I think help to sort of get the backstory. First of which is that I know you know this, but Office document these days, a PPTX file or a docx file, is just a container. It's a zip file that has a structure inside it, right? So you can open it up with WinZip or any zip reader and look at what's inside there. And there will be essentially some XML files, but there's a directory structure in there. And you can so I've used this, for example, for some reason. I'm doing a PowerPoint deck or something like that, and I like using images in my decks, and so I'll put a bunch of images in, and then I turn around, and for some reason my PowerPoint is like 100 megabytes, and
yes,
I'm like, why really? And there is an optimized image in PowerPoint that you can do, but whatever it does not do a very good job with it. But if you open it up in a zip editor, you can turn around and sort by size, basically, see what's really big. And so I've a couple times seen like TIFF files in there that are super huge, and so I'll figure out which file it is, and then I'll go in and I'll like replace it with a PNG or something like that. Anyway, the other thing you can do in there is in the XML, if you have a reference to an image that's in, you can have a reference to an image that's inside the container. But if that reference is replaced with a HTML reference, the document renderer will happily go retrieve the image. So you could either replace something that's already in there, or you can go and just add you know how they use tracking pixels in like emails and stuff like that, right? For HTML rendered
Yep.
emails to see if the email has been opened. You could do a similar
Yep.
sort of thing with a Word document, and then you know whether or not somebody opened it, and just basically put a, you know, it's akin to a canary too, right?
Yep.
A canary is just a, you know, you want to have a notification if this document's ever opened somewhere. Okay, so that's I guess background on this. So this guy, I didn't actually go like double click in to see what he was doing, but he apparently works for a company that does like phishing training for enterprises, right? One of the places that, you know, we'll send your employees phishing emails, see if they click on it, send them documents, see if they open them, that kind of thing. So he had basically weaponized or put a canary or a tracking pixel into a document, and he knew because he knows what he's like. I'd never opened this document, but it got triggered, and in double clicking into why it got triggered, he realized that it was in the preview in Windows Explorer.
Oh.
So Windows Explorer, you know, when you hover over or you select a document, it'll try to give you a preview sometimes.
Right.
And that preview does not honor what the full Office has, something called protected view, that basically prevents the documents from reaching out at all if they're from an untrusted source.
Right.
So, you know, Word has protected view, and, you know, it's got the little yellow banner at the top. I think it's yellow, that says, you know, do you want to allow active content here or something like that? But basically, no, if the Explorer preview is triggered, it can still go. It won't run macros, but you don't have to use a macro to do this.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of tricky. And then the kind of bummer thing about this is he reports it to Microsoft, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't a security vulnerability, so no bounty for you."
But they quietly fixed it, I assume.
Well, they agreed to fix it in the future, I think was what he had said. So yeah, not fixed at the moment, but will, you know.
So if it's in the real doc, it's a security vulnerability, but if it's in the preview, it's not.
So what does it actually say here? Hold on. Our engineering teams determined that a fix for this issue does not meet our criteria for immediate security servicing. However, it is a candidate for consideration for potential improvements in a future version of this product or service. At this time, we will not be providing ongoing updates of the status or if there will be a fix for the issue, and we have closed the case. Dun dun dun. That seems pretty short-sighted in my view. That does not seem accurate. Okay, sorry, you were saying something though, and I think I was thinking over you.
Since this is in the preview, it's not a security vulnerability. But if this were in the Word doc when you opened it, it would be, because they put the protection in for it. So failing to see the difference there.
Well, we're not trying to protect you at the operating system level, evidently. I don't know. Sorry. I won't. Speculation is harmful for your health. All right, dude. We're getting on in here. What about something fun? What do you got for me fun tonight?
So my something fun has been running the whole time we've been doing the podcast, and it's not done. So I was hoping to be able to look at the end report and do some real-time activity, real-time reporting on it. But so
I have no idea.
My something fun is Cloudflare's lightweight vulnerability scanner, which they call it's Flan scan, but it's Flan scan. You know, it's a picture of a flan. You know, the nice caramelized, tasty flan, but it's the flan scan or Flan scan.
That is not
Flan
how you rhyme.
Scan. Yeah, so I'm confused by what they're doing. But anyways, it's actually kind of cool. They open sourced this tool, and it's an in-house network vulnerability scanner that they've written. It's a thin wrapper around Nmap and a couple other tools that they've written. because they were spending large amounts of money paying some other vendor to come do a scanner, and then they realized we're paying a lot of money for something that we throw out half the stuff. Why don't we just write our own? So they basically did, and they open sourced it, and it's basically a Docker container. So you load up a Docker container, run the scan against whatever subnet you want, and it generates a report in, you guessed it, LaTeX.
No. LaTeX?
Yes. The output is LaTeX. So I was hoping to have it finished by now so that I could look at my report and either be proud of my lockdown home network or be, oh crap, look what I got.
Okay, so you're running it inside your home network.
Yes, it's running inside the home network.
Is it running in a container on your Synology?
It is not. It's running in a container on my actual laptop because I wanted to test it first. And if it works out, I'm going to put it on my new Synology.
Running it on the Synology, that would have been
in a container.
That would have been cool.
Yes. But I'm testing it out here, and then I will migrate it to the Synology and then do like a weekly scan or something at some point, depending on how the report comes out. Anyways, I thought it was really cool. It's really easy if you know, it's a little technical because you got to know how to use Docker, but it's all out there on GitHub.
All right, that's cool.
Easy to run. So, anyways,
that's cool.
That's my something fun.
Out.
Yep.
I'll have to check
what
that
do you
out.
got?
I don't know. I'm reading your Cloudflare blog. Okay. What do I got? Okay. Sorry, I'm back to what's my something fun. Okay, so my something fun. You introduced me to Shortwave, which is a podcast.
Yeah.
The 10, 15 minutes
NPR.
Science podcast.
Yep.
And ever since then, I have listened to it. It must be almost every day because I don't have any queued up. I probably and I know I binged some of them because they had an episode. I went and looked. It was on November 4th about a woman named Victoria who received the first, I think at least in the U.S., attempt to use CRISPR as a treatment for a blood disease called sickle cell anemia. So I listened to that sometime in the last couple of weeks, and then I saw this article just a couple of days ago, and then they had a follow-up on Shortwave. I listened to it today. I don't know when it came out. Sometime in the last day or two. So this, I think, is totally cool. So I guess I'm assuming that most people have heard of CRISPR these days, but I guess I don't know if that's the truth, and I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast at all. But CRISPR is a way of very easily slicing out and replacing some DNA with another segment. And so the cool thing that they had about this, and this is more from the podcast this morning than this article, but the article is what we'll put in here, was they came up with the idea to do this experiment. So let's start. Let's start with sickle cell anemia is when instead of having like well-shaped round, what a red blood cell looks like, right? It kind of looks like a UFO that is
donut.
A donut. And so instead of having nice donut-shaped red blood cells, they look like crescents, and they're stickier. They stick together, and people that have sickle cell anemia are can be subject to incredibly intense bouts of pain, and there was a comment on the podcast that they rarely live to like past 40, I think was what they said on the podcast. But they got the idea for this treatment because there are some people in the world that have or show signs of sickle cell anemia, but no symptoms. And when they looked at why some people rarely had the disease but not the symptoms, it was because they had high levels of fetal hemoglobin in their blood. And so evidently the deal is that when you are in your mother's womb, your bone marrow creates fetal hemoglobin, which is, the purpose of hemoglobin is to take oxygen. And the fetal hemoglobin, you're not breathing. I don't know if you know that. You're not breathing while you're inside the womb. So the fetal hemoglobin is basically powerful enough to take oxygen from the mother's blood. So it's powerful.
Right.
But then after you're born, there's a sequence of DNA that turns off the production of fetal hemoglobin and leaves it with regular hemoglobin. And the problem is that in sickle cell, it's that turning on, that's that off switch that is busted, or the switch over doesn't work, or the regular production doesn't work. And so they were like, oh, well, so if we could figure out a way to basically disable the off switch so that her bone marrow will produce fetal hemoglobin, then it's not that they will have cured the disease, but they will have given her body a way to produce what she needs and no longer have the symptoms. And so far, so good. So basically the news from earlier this week was that her blood shows 50% fetal hemoglobin and still rising. So this is super cool. So they basically took samples of her bone marrow, used CRISPR to find and cut out the off switch basically, and then re-inject her with the revised bone marrow that had the off switch turned off, so it will continue to produce fetal hemoglobin, and then monitored her for a long time, and then she this week it was going back to the hospital after I think a couple of months to check it out. So I thought this was really cool. I'm if you haven't heard of CRISPR or Cas9, you should. I think that's the other thing. You should do that. And you should read about them. It's cool.
Yeah, I'll have to read into this. That is kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's my something. Victoria Gray. That's her name. So sorry, I'm now getting this. Since her treatment in July, the sickle cell patient Victoria Gray has not suffered any vaso-occlusive crises, which she normally would have had more than one in between that then and now. That's fantastic.
Very cool.
So she's the first, but there are hundreds of thousands of others that may
benefit.
Yeah, may benefit. And there was also a note somewhere in here that there's a not a similar disease, but there is another patient in Germany that's undergoing a similar treatment for a different disease, also of which there's a known DNA solution for. So anyway, there we go. That's something cool. Awesome. I think it's cool, at least.
Yeah.
All right. That was a long something fun though, so I'll have fun seeing if I can cut something of that out. All right.
Until next week.
Until next week. All right. Call it a show. Thanks, Eric. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.